My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Jack Edward, as we live and breathe. Were you just munching on something as we were or even still munching on something?
I was just finishing off a little bag of popcorn as quick as I could. Professional. So that when I came onto the set, it was all gone and there was no crunching in the background.
If anyone has had the pleasure of meeting Jack Edward, particularly at a tennis tournament, then, half the time he's munching on something.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. Yeah, hungry.
The other half of the time he might be sipping on something, but that's perhaps that's for special occasions such as Wimbledon, for example. But Jack, great to have you on board today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here, John. It's been a wee while, so good to make a little appearance. I'm sure I'll be able to make another appearance at some point during the Australian Open. And always great to see Nick as well. I was saying that to you on the phone.
I know, Jack. I was a little offended when I said, Jack. I said, Jack, do you want to come and join me?
It goes without saying, John, that if I'm on the show, you're there as well. So just that also goes without saying that I love being with John Silk too. However, okay. It's nice because I'm not always with Nick. That's all I meant.
Nick, you got some love. Some love is an understatement. Actually.
It's about time no one else bothers on this team.
Yeah. Anyway,
I was going to say, John, for your description of what happens when you run into Jack Edward at a tournament, and he's might be munching on something or occasionally sipping on something, and when you run into John Silk at a tournament, he's constantly sipping on something.
Yeah, or maybe even swigging. By the way, Jack, what do you think about Nick's semi-new? It's been a while now, but setup. He's got a really full. You know when you see these people doing the Zoom calls and stuff and the ultra professional meetings, especially during COVID, and they've got a full bookcase behind them. He's got a half bookcase, Jack. Can you give us your thoughts on
the other half's lost in the post?
Yeah,
I think there's a apt metaphor somewhere there, right?
I don't know if there's a metaphor, but there's certainly space for an Iga Swiatek poster.
Is that half the space is intellectual stuff from Nick, and then the other half?
Oh, I see. I see.
The other half is creative. To be fair, it's a blank space, Nick. So I realised as I said that metaphor, I was suggesting that the other half.
Jack, what have I told you before, Jack, about using complicated words like metaphor on this show? I mean, this is beyond me and maybe even some of our audience.
Maybe, to be honest, I think I'm currently thinking that I'm going to have a giant talking tennis mural on the wall, unless you sell posters, John.
Not yet. We've got mugs, we've got hoodies and all sorts. But I can tell you this: we've sold a total in 12 months of one item. And by the way, I thought I would get a notification, like an email saying, "By the way, you've sold this one item." I just decided to just check the website to see if we had sold anything. I say the concept, the whatever talking tennis space. We have sold something. I'm not sure who it is who bought that one thing, but one thing was, I haven't checked it for 2 or 3 weeks, so maybe things have gone up crazily since. But by the way, when it comes back to the metaphor, Jack, I like it. Yeah, this is the space for Nick's tennis thoughts that we see on one side of Nick's thoughts. The other half is the power rankings and the analysis and the crazy stats and the datas and the databases and the, what do you call that stuff on when you got spreadsheets.
Except, yeah, spreadsheet. There's a lot of spreadsheets that go into the power rankings, believe
Yeah,
me.
and that's the, I don't know what side it is. That's the spreadsheets there, and
Yeah.
and there's the, the emotion that we all love in tennis.
I mean, I would love to say that my bookshelf contains, as an intellectual, anyone who zooms in enough will clearly say that this set of books says Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Yeah. Are you a Lord of the Rings fan, Jack?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Not as much as some people, maybe not as much as Nick, probably, but yeah, I can definitely boogie with Lord of the Rings for sure.
I mean, you could probably get yourself cast as a hobbit.
I mean, reasonable. I've got hairy feet. That might be it.
Jack, by the way, Jack, by the way, is someone that we can view on the stream from time to time throughout the year, and we just sort of go. You could just basically play the first few seconds of any stream from the last 2.5 years and go, okay, I think that's January. That's Jack's January attire that we're seeing right now. This is the Australian Open that we're looking at right now. And then we see like a few layers come off as it gets closer to the summer, and then they just gradually come back on as we get towards the ATP Tour finals, for example.
I basically just live and breathe in the same outfit for seasons. So I'll go home, keep my outfit on, and I'll be ready to play tennis at any point.
Jack, is that an Oscar behind you, by the way? Is there something I'm not? Is there an Oscar I can see?
You know what that is, right? Or
no, I have not. It looks like an Oscar. But
you want me to bring it closer? Let's bring it closer.
Yeah, I do, because I'm sure it's going to be tennis related, but I'm sure it's not going to be an actual Oscar. Oh, I see.
It's better.
I think he has made an appearance before. Just from afar, he looks Oscar-like.
Coach Novak. Here we go.
Maybe we need to have a Talking Tennis Awards show, and we need to call it the Murrays.
The Murrays, yeah. There's on The Office, I think the US version. There's a thing called the Dundies or something. It's super funny, and yeah, maybe we can try and imitate that and call it our own, and we'll call it the Murrays. Yeah, Jack, how do you feel about this partnership with Djokovic and stuff? I mean, I don't know how the Andy Murray fandom has felt towards Novak over the 15, 20 years of Andy, being on the professional tour. And I guess there's some warmth now. And are you if you're an Andy Murray fan, Jack, you're an Andy Murray fan, huge emphasis on the word if, are you supporting Novak Djokovic in this Australian Open?
Yeah, he is the man I want to win, definitely.
Wow,
that's all Andy. But I'm not even. I'm sure we had this discussion with Scott, and Scott's exactly the same as me.
Scott would be, but Scott, but Scott is slightly different.
I know.
Scott is not even an Andy Murray fan. I think he's being exposed.
I'm in the same half of the Muzza fandom, and I want Andy Djokovic to win. I think it's somewhat a reflection on Andy, isn't it? And this is the right time for him to join. Novak's obviously had a year last year where he didn't win a slam for however long. And, if Novak does end up winning the Australian Open, then the Murray fan base will claim that as their own.
But Jack,
Andy's going to get full credit for that.
Yeah, but Jack, I mean, when you're watching Jaime Faria get a set today, and the world number 100,
it's all part of the plan. Did Andy ever play his first 2 rounds and it was like smooth sailing?
No, I'm not. But I'm not interested. I'm more interested in the romance and the.
It's all part of the plan.
Yeah, sure. But I'm just thinking, you're a human being as well as an Andy Murray fan, Jack, and Jaime Faria is 123 in the world rankings, or at least maybe pre-tournament, and he wins a set, and you're thinking, I mean, honestly, listen, we're supposed to be neutral, Nick. Remember that? No, me too, all of us. But we're supposed to be neutral. But I'm not gonna lie. When Jaime Faria won that second set today, my neighbors might have been wondering what the hell was going on at 5:30 in the morning here, because I was a little elated. By the way, that elation, and by the way, both of you, that elation wasn't coming from, I think Jaime Faria has a chance of winning this match. It's just, wow, this is amazing. And I'm so excited. Nick, have you ever been in that situation where you're supporting an underdog and you don't think they're going to win, but you're still celebrating points and games and potential sets as well?
I mean, I had that little bit today with Jodie Barrage against Coco Gauff.
There you go.
In the match today, I was kind of pulling for her to get a set off Gauff, and I didn't think that she'd pull off the upset, but it was super exciting to see her produce a level that saw her challenging the current world number 3 and world number 1 contender.
Exactly.
I'm definitely in the same boat as Nick as well. I think I kind of, I'm not really a fan of Draper yet, and I was definitely very in that match. I thought the level was great. Excited to see where that would go, and that was just a pure love of tennis.
But
were you, Jack? Go on, Nick.
I will say, though, as kind of being on the other side, you're talking about the where's the romance in the underdog, and Jaime Faria winning a set against Djokovic and maybe having a chance of competing or whatnot. Let's be honest. If it was Rafael Nadal who'd won that set again, you would be feeling very differently, as Jack would if it was Andy Murray. If I would have when it was Roger Federer. Absolutely.
But I think there's an asterisk. So that's what I mean. I mean, you've got your favorite, Andy, Roger, Rafa, Novak, and that's fine. What I don't get is when it's like your second favorite. It's like Daniel Medvedev or I don't know, some other Grand Slam contender, and that's your second. No, you can't have the first and the third favorite. The first and just go for a Liam Brody, go for a Aziz Dugas or Jaime Faria or Jodie Burrage, for example. That's fine. You can't have. I mean, you see this on Twitter, especially. Like my favorites: Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, Andy Murray, Juan Martin Del Potro. And you go, well, you can't have the 4 or 5 favorites with the odd exception going into every slam. That's sort of my, my basically thing on this, Nick, and is I get it. I'm a Manchester United football fan. I'm a Rafa Nadal fan for those that are not aware. And if you aren't aware, then you probably haven't been watching for the last 2.5 years, and that's fine. But when it comes to everyone else, I'm kind of going for the underdog. So I'm pulling in the slams for right now. When I say it's the underdog, it's not quite the underdog, but it's the bridesmaids. It's the Casper Ruuds, for example, who've made slam finals but not got over the line. It's the Ons Jabeurs and the Karolina Mukovas. I would love to tick the box for each of those 3 players to all win a Grand Slam. Nick, it looks like you've got something to say.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Obviously, it depends on the context, because yes, we're pulling for Casper Ruud to win a slam overall. The question is whether you'd be rooting for him against Jakub Mensik.
I was
yesterday.
I was, because Mensik's time will come, and it is coming, and it has come almost. But Nick, very good for bringing us to the present day.
Yes, well, I'm doing that. I mean, like it's interesting you say that, because I was pulling for Mensik during the match, and actually I have to say, like, something that was really kind of bothering me at the minute is where is the Jakub Mensik hype?
I think you're being bothered.
Is it not?
It's there, but João Fonseca is
he's taking the most of it, isn't he? But
and is that bothering you a bit, Nick?
Yeah, I think you should hype them the same. They've done similar things. Fonseca's win was more impressive against Rublev, given that he's younger, straight sets, first time on a slam. But if you look at it on paper, it's very similar achievements by a teenager upsetting a top 10 player. So, and they both had their whole careers ahead of them. So, yeah, I think if you're going to give Fonseca a lot of hype, you've got to also have Mensik along there as well.
Yeah.
Jack, some people, not many, but they're a little bit perturbed or a little bit annoyed by the João Fonseca sort of hype. Where are you on the Fonseca train? Which carriage are you in? Are you basically trying to bang your way into the front and trying to drive that train, or are you somewhere at the back going, listen, where's the bathroom?
No, I'm at the front of the train, definitely. That's like I'm just so hyped in this new gen in general. These guys just like slap the ball, man. Like, I feel like there's not been a generation before them that just like absolutely kill every ball. You're literally like Mensik, Lehechka, Fonseca, Sinner, Alcaraz. All of these guys just have forehands from like another planet, and you put them against like Steph, Daniel, Zverev, the old guard. I think they beat these guys. You know, once they've kind of fleshed out their games, they'll beat these guys really easily. Like Tsitsipas in particular is just getting smacked by everybody at the moment. It's like that backhand just has no chance. If you went against Fonseca, I just don't see how he would beat him on a non-clay court. Like,
is that a generational problem, or is that a Stefan Tsitsipas problem? I think it's a bit of both.
I think there's a bit of a generational problem. So one thing that you can kind of tell, that kind of like next gen forehand, the one that's like really resty and it's like all this crazy, like you point the strings down before you go for it, and you know, think like Kyrgios and Tiafoe and stuff. That's kind of gone a bit. You know, nobody's trying to like rip the ball with loads of spin. Now it's just like absolutely killing the ball. And yes, it's still loads of topspin, but it looks more clean. I don't know if forehand techniques changed, but certainly you look at a player like Fonseca and he's not doing all this crazy Tiafoe stuff or anything like that. He's just like got a really, really clean, beautiful forehand. And it's the same with Mensik, and it's the same with Lehechka. It's like all these guys, and it's the same with Sinner, and it's the same with Alcaraz. It's like all of these guys just have really clean forehand techniques instead of this crazy wristy stuff that just like gives the other player loads of time.
Although I did hear a story from, I think it might have been a US Open commentator about why Tiafoe has the forehand that he does.
I really like
okay.
What is that?
So
go on.
Story I heard was that, so basically his family were not particularly well off, and his dad was a caretaker at a tennis club, and it got to the point where like they lost their homes, but the owner of the tennis club would very graciously let them sleep at the tennis club until they could find a new place. Anyway, Tiafoe was around the tennis club with his dad when he was a kid and wants to have a go, but didn't have a lot of, they couldn't necessarily afford to get him stuff. So he was just playing with broken rackets against the wall. So his technique ended up being, because he was playing with broken rackets. Just how he got used to playing with it. So when eventually he picked up a proper one, he didn't really adjust much to it.
Okay, fair enough. That's a different reason. That's cool.
No,
I suppose the point still stands. There's a bit of a flaw there, but that is quite. I don't even know how that would work. How would you play with a broken racket? That's mental.
Jack, anyway, so I want to talk about sort of tennis fandom and tennis bias, and we'll keep it Australian Open related for sure. But it comes back to my sort of initial point, at least, was about transferring your allegiance to Novak. Are you really living and breathing every point in the same way, or are you also feeling a little bit maybe like myself as a Manchester United fan post Ferguson? Are you also sort of hoping that decision that Ferguson made pretty much on behalf of Manchester United for David Moyes to be a success? Are you also sort of with that going, I want Novak to win, so Andy looks like a good coach? And I mean that in the nicest possible way.
Yeah. I don't think it's anywhere near the level of commitment that I would have had for an Andy match. It's not, I can't even begin to like. Well, you guys know, every tennis fan knows what it's like to support your player and really, really want them to win, because then it just feels like painful when they, lose a point at like 2-all.
Have you both done this? You're both pacing up and down in a living room watching your player. Have you both done that? I guess you have.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally different. There's probably a high chance that never happens ever again for me in my life, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm the same.
It's been and gone now. It was a great time, but there's no way I can get as invested in a tennis player as I got invested in Andy Murray.
Yeah.
So no, it's
a bit sad. No, I mean, I know I agree with you. I remember. I mean, this is actually funny enough. The first match that sprung to mind was Stefanos Tsitsipas, Rafa Nadal, quarterfinal Australian Open, 2-0, and I'm a bit anxious, and it just was getting away. Yeah, and it's getting away, and I'm just pacing up and down, and And I'm talking to a fellow Rafa fan, actually. I think at 2-1, we actually spoke on the phone. And he's like, yeah, it'll be, and it's not going to be okay. It's not gonna be
I remember watching that match, and again, it's like you can see it from an outsider's perspective. Like I wasn't as invested in the match, so I had a kind of clear thought about it. I was like, Steph is serving too well. This feels like it's his match to win now, because I don't think Rafa really touched him on serve after that third set.
No, he didn't. That was the thing. Until the final game, I think went to juice, and he might have had a break point, but it certainly went to juice, and maybe a few juices. But yeah, that was the most concerning thing. It was just like Rafa struggling on serve, and he's just barely making an imprint. And from the moment that tie break, which was a horrible tie break from Rafa, got away, that pacing up and down continued, but was pacing up and down with nervous hope before, and then it became nervous, like pessimism afterwards. And yeah, everything I feared ended up being the same. Nick, can you empathize with any of this?
Oh, yes. And on multiple levels with any of my big favorites. I've definitely experienced of like not being able to sit down during certain matches of theirs where things got a little bit tight, a little bit tense. Few Roger matches, few Iga matches. That's definitely happened to me.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to the fandom thing. It's one of the reasons why I sort of mentioned it before going on air. Is there's sort of two sides to it, and I get all that. I get it. Whether your favorite is Djokovic or Murray or Federer or Iga or Arena or Carolina or whoever, Coco, etc. I get it. And you. This is my point. So when I was sort of saying to you that, you're saying that as a Rafa fan, and I get it. You're fine. You want your 22 or 24 or 20-time Grand Slam winner to get another one, but once they're out of the equation, then I'm going for the bridesmaid. Then I'm going for the underdog in. So, for example, Casper Ruud against Mensik, for example, Nick, is a guy who might well win a Grand Slam in Jakub Mensik. Might well. Casper Ruud is someone that, yeah, probably that's gone. But if it does happen, what a day for tennis that will be. That's the maybe you don't agree with me there, Jack. I don't know, but yeah. Nick, what do you think?
I get the sympathy, right? I get what you mean. I guess for me, it's like Mensik is going to be the underdog at this point in his career against the really, really top players now.
It's just different against if it's Mensik against Djokovic, Sinner, Alcaraz. It's just a bit different against Ruud.
It is a little bit different, but like I guess with Ruud, first of all, I think I still have some faith that Ruud could do something.
When you say do something, do you mean like
win a Grand Slam?
Fjords? Oh, I see.
I think that although that window is closing, it's not closed yet.
Let's be real, the French.
Of course, yeah. Another Estoril title, Jack. Don't diss Estoril there, which has been downgraded to a challenger this year, but
he's still 500 masterless, isn't he?
No, he's got 500. He got Barcelona last year.
Yes, Sweden.
But on this point, actually, I think it came up in a live chat today. I think there's 3, 4, 5 milestones in tennis, because I think it was somebody. Oh, it's talking about Nishikori, and somebody said in the live chat, I think it was Jake, said, it would be great if Nishikori got that 1,000 title, and of course he had that situation against Rafa in Madrid when he was up, but ultimately was injured and didn't take the title. But I don't know, as a fan, and maybe personally Nishikori might feel differently, but as a fan, does it matter? I mean, the things that matter are breaking the top 100. That's the goal for me as an outsider. Every single tennis player on the planet, break that top 100. Get an ATP point. I remember reading in the Roger Federer effect when Federer spoke about or the feeling that he had when he got his first ATP point. And I'm telling you, in that entire book, that was the moment that got me here. that there he was as a teenager and he's got an ATP Tour point. That got me more than winning Wimbledon for the first time, winning 20 Grand Slams and everything else. I think getting an ATP, you're there. You're a thing. You're a real Jack. Go on. Do you disagree?
Obviously, personally, I'm sure the players will say that, but for fans, it's not something they can latch on to.
No, of course not. Of course not. But I'm looking retrospectively. And I'm viewing that career as a 20 Grand Slam career and world number one for so long. But I'm watching that going, that's pretty cool that Roger Federer was feeling that. Of course he was as a teenager. But beyond that, I've gone off at a tangent a bit. But what I want to say is there's 3 or 4 landmarks, and one of those landmarks is not 250, 500s, or 1000s. The landmarks are breaking the top 100, world number one, winning a Grand Slam, winning a title in various different orders. I've said it. So whether you win a 250 or a 500 or 1000, yeah, it's big, but I don't know if it's that big. Like Jan-Lennard Struff, the best example I can give is this. Jan-Lennard Struff missed out on that Madrid title in 2023, and that would have been amazing for him, and I was really gutted for him that he didn't land that. But then he goes and wins in Munich a year later, and it's like, yeah, that's okay. That's fine.
It's not. I think nowadays, I don't know if this has maybe changed over time, but I might be seeing something different if my kind of favourite player was somebody who wasn't contending for slams. But I think nowadays it's all about the slams. Most fans will probably say the same thing. And if, let's
sure.
I'm going to use David Ferrer as an example. Does anybody really think back to David Ferrer's Paris Masters title and go, David Ferrer got the justice that he deserved, he got that Masters title? Or does everybody go, he didn't win that slam? He was the best of the rest and he didn't win a slam. That's what most people say.
Nick?
I mean, it depends on who you are, right? Like, I go think back to it. Oh, thank goodness he won a Masters because he deserved at least a Masters.
Yeah, fair.
Like, that's how I think about David Ferrer. But if you think like most people, I'd say a lot of tennis fans now will be like, unless you're Spanish, oh yeah, David Ferrer.
Yeah, exactly. I think Masters titles have lost their shine, and it's obviously the same in the.
They're 10 a penny. They're 10 a penny.
It's one of those things that like it matters more when you're like massively in the detail of it. Of being a tennis fan, you look at the
right,
and you look at the like this, but
like it's true. But as soon as Jack
zoom out, the less they matter.
Yeah, Jack
after Jack Sock won a Masters title, they just didn't
pop her in. I would like to see a sort of, I don't know if this is how I see it. I'd like to see 4. This is just my idea: 4 Grand Slams, 8 1000s, and then 500s, 250s, whatever. That's how I see it. I would like to see 1 or 2 less 1000s, and if it means, cutting our cloth accordingly, that would be how it is. Coming back to the sort of tennis fandom, I talked about I think it's positive, whether you're anxious and you're nervous and you're hoping for your favorite and you're giving certain opinions. Of course, that they can be very biased in that you view things through your own lens, if you like. And sometimes, by the way, and people forget this. I don't know if either of you two can empathize with this. Sometimes you're super like down on your player or your team, as it turns out in team sports, and yet the neutral observer has got a better perspective in terms of saying, by the way, I think so. 2020 French Open final, from my perspective, I was sure Rafa was losing that final to Novak. I just there was just nothing about Rafa's previous 6 weeks on the clay, and then also previous 12 months, if you like, in various other situations, and the confidence that was coming out from my side on the outside from Novak was just like, this guy, was doing drop shots when he didn't need to in the build up to that final, and winning matches. And okay, Steph pushed him in the semi-final, but it didn't feel like he was in any situation. Rafa had issues, lost to Schwartzman, I think it was, in Rome in the build up to that, and it was just like, I just don't see him winning. And other people were like, yeah, he's going to be fine. And so I'm sort of more on that sort of fandom. I actually probably go a bit more towards the negative. Then there's the opposite, and then there's the Pavi G, if you like. Am I making any sense with what I'm saying here, Nick? By the way, I don't know. What were you like as a Federer fan in the past, Nick? Were you super confident, or were you doubting even when he was 2-0 on a breakup?
No, I was, to be honest, no, I was never in doubt for Roger Federer when he was 2-0 up. It was very rare that he lost from 2-0 up.
Okay, fair.
I think it was pretty rare for Rafa to lose from 2-0 up, to be fair. It was pretty rare for Rafa to lose from 2-0 up.
Yeah. Is it when Fabio Fognini was around, or Stefano Tsitsipas?
Yeah, that's like something like Federer was super rare as well. I think Zonga was the first time he got upset from 2-0 up in like 2011. And that was a huge shock. So that, yeah, when I was a Federer fan, it was never quite like that. I think my biggest frustration with being a Federer fan was like, come on, Roger, can you get a big win against Novak? Can you get a big win against Novak? Can you get a big win against Rafa? And he did against Rafa in 2017 when he switched that around. But yeah, I think that was kind of more, it was like, I'm not bothered about if you beat whoever when you play Evgeny Donskoy in Dubai and lose.
I remember that one.
Yeah, I was like, as annoying as weird at the time, but like I kind of move on from it fairly quickly. It's the ones where he's like, okay, you're still able to compete with Novak, and that was more what I cared about.
Yeah.
Jack, in terms of Andy Murray, were you an Andy Murray optimist or an Andy Murray pessimist?
I think it kind of goes back to maybe what I was saying before. Like you would watch your favorite player, and this might apply for everybody, or maybe it's an Andy thing. But you would win any point, you'd watch any point, and you'd be quite nervous about it, even if it's like 2-0 in the first set. Love. You're like, Andy's got to win this point. It's just that constant feeling of not being able to settle and get comfortable, and that makes me feel like I'm a bit more of an Andy pessimist, I think.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, there's a bit of an Andiness that, it doesn't really matter where he is in the match. You're like, he actually could win this at any point. If he's like,
what about pre-match, Jack? Because I've had conversations with you when Andy was still on the tour, and you were expressing confidence that I thought was maybe misplaced over the last couple of years.
Yeah, maybe I'm trying to trick myself. I think most of the time,
yeah,
deep down, well, to be fair, in the last, I think I'm a bit of a realist, to be fair. So when Andy was at his peak, I was like more optimistic about him. But the last 4 years of his career, I was pretty much never in a place where I was comfortable with any matchup. Just like,
I might be about to be committing sacrilege here, and a lot of my memories of Andy are kind of coloured by him more recently, because it's been so long. Like his peak was so long ago, relatively. But I also think with an Andy fan, you never felt like there was always the sense that he was scrapping for every single point. I can't think of many Andy Murray points where he was in complete control and dominating the point and controlling it. Other than maybe the odd good serve or like the +1, and he's kind of got the mentality over an opponent who's maybe a lot weaker. For me, it's like also you kind of have to be a little bit nervous with Andy when he was playing, because you never got the sense he was in full control.
Jack, is the Andy Murray return been forgotten about for one reason? Maybe because of Novak's return being so dominant. Because I think the return and the backhand as well, but that was pretty special, right?
I think it's been lost a wee bit in time. Yeah, I think we forget how good it was. It's not really discussed that often, is it? And the backhand, the backhand was just so sweet. You don't get backhands like that anymore. I tell you, you just don't have that.
That Oscar, by the way, is now it's very Andy Murray in the background. I can see it very clearly. I almost feel like there should be an iron brew somewhere nearby. But anyway, listen, we've spoken about fandom, we've spoken about positives, negatives, and all that. What do we feel about these sort of extremes? And I mean, there's obviously some classic examples, but I can talk about some slightly less classic ones. When we had the Iga and the Yannick situations with their bans recently, I saw tweets begin along the lines of with Iga, for example. I wasn't sure. I doubted this. I feared this. I always wondered how I would feel. And blah 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 blah. And finally, I'm still an Iga fan and I believe her 100%. And I'm not interested in whether she's guilty or not, but I'm beginning this thing and I know how this story is going to end. And same with Yannick fans and Novak fans and Rafa and Roger. And it's just a bit like, take Rafa fans, for example. They're just clutching at so many straws when it comes to the Novak thing that it's almost a bit awkward and a bit embarrassing. And again, I know this there was a situation with Coco and Iga at the net recently, and Coco fans were like going on one situation and Iga fans were going in another direction, and it's like I can't believe that. And then the best point of view on all this was from Tumani Carriol from The Guardian, where he said, all this handshake thing is just ridiculous. Iga's lost a tennis match. She's not overly happy. We move on. No big deal. But I always thought that until then, and I think since then it'll continue the same, that Iga and Coco's relations will be pretty good. What do you think, Jack, about these sort of extremities that may be exaggerated by social media?
Yeah, it's a really good question. One thing I'm just thinking about my own personal experience as a fan and like discussing tennis. I unless I'm playing tennis, I don't have loads of direct friends who are that into tennis. So a lot of the time I'll discuss with people on the court, and it'll be just like, what's going on at the Australian Open? What did you think of this match and that match? And it's all very normal to talk about tennis with somebody in person, I feel, and that's where being a tennis fan is quite good fun. Obviously you can discuss it with somebody else, and that's where it's quite realistic. I think social media, sometimes you can get stuck not talking about tennis for quite a while, and you're online, and it feels like fans are just mental. And like so often, it's like you see the very like extreme side of fandom just so often, and that makes it feel quite normal when it isn't. That's not how people talk about. That's not how normal people talk about tennis in real life, right?
But
we're
Jack,
here together, and I think we're having very normal discussions about tennis players and fans.
I saw her as like her name. Yeah, I mean, she's on social media, and I think it's okay to say it's, her name's Anna. She's working in politics in Poland, and I saw her getting very involved in I think she was saying how disrespectful Coco was, and I was thinking, it's so clear you're seeing this from a particular lens. It's just like, just take a step back and go, Iga's lost a very good match against Coco, and take the L if you like. But it's just like I'm seeing that comment, and this is obviously several levels below some of the most extremes that we see. But I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, even like I say, from someone who has is a Rafa fan, I don't get it. Why are you trying to build frames to try and desperately clutch to something? Whether it be the number ones that Rafa beat on route to winning a Roland Garros title, or whatever you want to do. Just chill and enjoy the fact that he's won 22 Grand Slams, and B, he's done them in the fashion that he did so in that final against Medvedev, for example, or the semi-final against Novak in 2013 at Roland Garros, or the Verdasco win and the Federer win in 2008, and so on and so forth. Just sit back, have a cigar, and enjoy that. And if you don't smoke cigars, and I'm not here to support that, that's fine. Nick, what do you think about some of the things that Jack and I have just said?
I think it's it is extreme. Like, when my favorite player loses a tennis match, my day is not ruined. The next hour,
mine is. Well, yeah, okay.
Next hour might be tough, but I get over it. Like, and that's how I feel. Like, I think a lot of the people who are kind of super deep into this are kind of victims of the modern parasocial relationship that exists on the internet with a lot of celebrities and sports stars, not just tennis players, where they feel an attachment to a person and want to treat them like a friend. Then so we'll be very, very defensive. There's also a sense of nationalism that often is behind a lot of it, particularly if like they're the biggest star from a particular country, like Serbia or Poland. We've got or Scotland. or we have situations where I think some of it is a bit like when you were kids and you were comparing who your favorite superheroes were, and like you get into arguments about who'd win in a fight, and it kind of gets into that sort of hypothetical thing of like it depends on the day, and like a lot of it doesn't matter anyway, to quote Damien. Yeah, I think there's a lot of elements in there of like I'm invested, but not to that level, and I don't understand why you would get invested in that level. I think I'd put it like this: is that my favorite player is my favorite tennis player. They're not my messiah.
There's also another thing, and this is for both of you in a way. I don't get the dislike of someone that beats your favorite tennis player as well, which I don't get that as much as those losses from my favorite player. Like I mean, I was a Becker fan in my very, very early years before people start speculating about my age being like 63 or something crazy. I mean, super young, but I don't hate Stefan Edberg for winning 2 of the 3 Wimbledon finals they had. I didn't, and then Tim Henman and I jumped on that bandwagon, and I don't look at Goran Ivanisevic and look the other way, and so on and so forth for that Wimbledon semi-final, and then continuing with Rafa, and we talked about that Tsitsipas match. I don't begrudge Stefanos Tsitsipas for having the temerity to try and win a tennis match against Rafa Nadal. I don't. That's almost the weirdest of all the fandom things, because as passionately as I want, Jack, what you're responding? What are you thinking?
I get it. I do get it. Like
I do get it. I don't get it.
I do get it. So I never hated any players. That's too strong a word. But when Andy was at his best, I could not like get round to liking Djokovic or Federer because they were just beating him too much. I get it.
That's okay.
I do get it.
That's slightly different. Like, I'm not a fan of Novak Djokovic because he's beaten. That's a bit different to, let's just say, I mean, give me a random player who beat Andy in an early round at a particular tournament.
I was going to say Kevin Anderson. I don't know if that's too late in an early round.
Yeah, I remember that. US
like, do you go on? Are you, or even if you don't go on social media, are you inwardly going Kevin Anderson? Like,
yeah, I do remember thinking, I was like, oh, why is he losing to Kevin Anderson? Come on. And if it was,
but that's
if I
why
met Kevin Anderson, I wouldn't dislike him. And it's the same with like Federer and Djokovic because I'm a normal person. Like I can obviously remove them, I guess, from the win. But at the same time, Kevin Anderson, not the person, but just the character. I don't like the fact he beat Andy. That's really annoyed me. I'm like,
fine. But listen,
I mean?
Okay, it's the last year of his career, and there's a bit of a different frame there. But when the next time I walk past Nuno Borges, I'm not looking at him going, "Oh,
this is what I mean." It's like I don't hate the person, but if you're kind of like thinking about it like characters in a TV show, then you can have a wee bit of a dislike for them because you're like, oh, he's beat my favorite player.
It's a TV show, sure, but I don't know.
Maybe this is what some people have a bit of a problem doing. They kind of they struggle to disengage, the reality of tennis players and what they're watching from their own reality, and it all becomes a bit blended into one.
I would also like to point out a lot of this handshake chat. It does tend to happen more amongst WTA fans than ATP fans.
The handshakes of there's maybe a little bit of speculation there, isn't there? As interesting, but I don't think there's been any kind of ATP handshakes of note recently that have been that.
No.
Even you could even speculate on. I can't think of one off the top of my head. It's always, to be fair, there is a point there, isn't there? So it's always a wee bit friendlier, I think, overall.
I think it just tells you about the fan bases of both.
Yeah.
Jack, when you finish a tennis match and it's a competitive one, and it's you desperately want to win, but you don't. It's a bit different to other sports, I think, in that generally you're sort of, bloody hell, I wish I'd won that tennis match, but the other guy won, and you go to the net, and half the time I would suggest you're feeling, I don't know, how do you feel? I mean, I feel sort of sort of pissed off, but it's okay. And I'm not annoyed with the other guy for beating me. At least that's how I feel half the time. The other half of the time, maybe there might be something, even the tiniest of things, a line call dispute, but even less than that, even just the muttering that the opponent makes to himself, that might bother you. And you're thinking, I mean, it happened actually today, funny enough. And the guy was saying on the other side of the net, and it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't genuine. He's like, I think I'm going to lose this match. And I think he wasn't saying that because he really thought that. I think he was saying that to do something to me. And I was like, for fuck's sake, don't.
And it's quite, this is a big coaching point as well. It's something that we see sometimes on both sides of the tour, where players might do something on purpose, whether it's on purpose or they have an idea subconsciously that it's going to disrupt the other player. It's not stuff that A, you can hold personally, I would say, against the other player, and B, that should bother you. And it doesn't happen that often at pro level because players don't let it bother them. And
it's the disingenuity, which is probably not even a word.
Disingenuousness.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes they are genuine. Sometimes they do.
Yeah, maybe.
They kind of do want to rattle you a bit, and you just got to be like, get on with it. It's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
That's it.
Hey,
there's nothing else you can do.
Nick, and Lennis, have you got something to add, Nick? Otherwise, go on.
No, I don't have anything to add. I'm just thinking that we just got demonetized. That's it.
Oh, because of me. Well, probably because of Jack's Andy Murray fandom. Yeah, for sure. Shall we do something crazy and talk about the Australian Open for the last 10 minutes? And,
by the way, if you are, thank you to the 27 viewers who have stuck with us for this last 45 minutes or so. I'm glad you enjoyed this.
Yeah, this is the nature of this show is very much what the hell. When with the watch alongs, I love it, and I love the tangents and the conversations about random things. But if there is a break point or a set point or a match point, and it's happened to me, by the way. I remember doing one with Vanch about, I think it was a couple of years ago now, and we were just busy chatting. It's like, oh, Holger has just lost that set. It was, that's when we sort of maybe just need to. But this whole pre-AO show is all about random stuff. However, we do at least squeeze in a bit of Australian Open stuff. Jack, Iga Swiatek, Shramkova today. No concerns for Iga, right?
No, not much else to say there. No comment. Shramkova is not a big enough hitter. That's basically the player profile that will bother Iga. And end of. I don't think there's much else to say there.
What if Shramkova peaks and Iga has a really off day?
Still no.
Yeah.
Glad we hear your voice on this one.
Iga's had some brutal draws in recent years, and AO especially, and Novak has had some super kind ones. But this year it's super flipped. In super flipped, I don't even know the second expression, but this year it's flipped anyway. Iga's is not too bad, and Novak's from now on is brutal, I think.
Yeah.
Novak has got what's he got now? He's got, is it Mahac next?
And then Lehechka afterwards.
Lehechka, assuming Lehechka wins. Carlos, Zverev, Sinner. I mean,
Mahac is one of those new gen players with a funny forehand, actually. That's not a good example of one of the new gen players who just slap the forehand, basically.
How old is Mahac?
So he's not that old, is he? He's like 21, maybe?
What? Mahac is 21? No way.
I thought he was older than that.
Younger, sorry? He'd be younger, right? No, I think he's younger.
No, he's not younger than 21 for sure.
He's 24, sorry, I'm way off. Yeah.
He's 24. Yeah, that's what I thought he was.
Okay. Well, I thought
Damien for that. Do you know, it's only because I've like a tennis noob, just aware of him for the last couple of years. So I just figured he was quite young.
Anyway, other matches today in Nevada.
I mean, before you move on, John, so just on Jack's point, we're going to say now that Coco Gauff is definitively not becoming the world number one after the Australian Open because she needs Iga to lose this match for it to be mathematically possible.
Oh, so okay, great. I love that number one point actually. So it's still mathematically possible right now, but if Iga wins this match, Coco's out of that equation.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to know. So yeah, and this is where Coco fans now are going to be even more invested in that match. Going, oh, come on, and then they're going to be angry with. There's going to be Coco fans in years from now. Going when they meet Shramkov, they go, why didn't you win that match? Because if you, yeah. Anyway, there we go. Okay. Anything else on my screen? Oh, Berrettini Runa. That's
that'll be good.
Yes, it's two names at slightly different moments in their career. That I mean, Berrettini's one of these things that is there
You
a
never know.
Wimbledon? Yeah, is there Wimbledon? I mean, not Australian Open, I don't think, but yeah, that's exciting, Jack.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm going to put maybe a 55-45 split on there, just marginally for Runa.
Just marginally for Runa, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty close. I don't see why Berrettini can't cause the upset there. Maybe there's a few matchup issues that actually tip it a little further. Maybe might change to 60-40. But still, very good chance of the upset. Why not? Berrettini's playing pretty well. Runa's maybe playing not so well. And yeah, stick with that. 60.
Jose Morgato's choice for match of the day.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's got to be Mediterranean, is it not?
Yeah, but Jose Morgado, listen, actually, I've met him a couple of times. I've met him, just exchanged pleasantries, but he's not gonna, he's the opposite end. It's funny. Him and Damien are the opposite ends of the tennis scale, if you like. And yet, Mr. Kust, who's, Mr., alternative hipster and stuff, he dons his cap from time to time towards Jose. For example, there was a moment in Estoril when Jose sort of just, I think it might have been Fonseca even. I think it was Fonseca when he did his Portuguese bit in the mix zone. Damien and I wanted to speak to Jose in English and to Fonseca. Yeah, because Jose Fonseca, right? Yes, to Fonseca. And Jose Morgado said, just before you go, I think these guys want to speak to you in English. And it was good. But honestly, Damon was like, did you see what Jose did there? As in Jose Morgado, that was so good, wasn't it? And for the next 5 days, he was like, Jose Morgado was amazing how he stopped Jose walking. And I thought, hang on a second. I mean, you're supposed to be Mr. Tennis hipster guy here. You can't be, you and Jose Morgado should be at the end of the scales here. But yeah, I see Kust sometimes softening a bit. Anyway, tangent, and I'm not even looking at you right now. I'm just looking at the draw, so I have no idea how you're probably both looking at me right now, going, "Well, just come on, move on, John." But
I think we've got to finish the show in 5 minutes.
Yeah, right. Rybakina, by the way, I think her draw is pretty good, which is one of the reasons why I think many of us have her in the semi-finals. Kecmanovic in the second round against Hurkacz, Fritz, Garin, Keys, Rusa, Sinner as well against Schoolgate. Any of these matches get any of your juices flowing, Jack?
Maybe not so much. I was just going to say maybe the Hubie upset could happen. I think we just don't trust Hubie outside of Wimbledon yet. Slams, he's still not done really enough to be trusted.
Agree. I just think that he's winning that against Kecmanovic.
It's not a great matchup. Obviously, Hubie probably just serves his way to a 5-set win or something. But still, that's maybe the one I'd be like, could be an upset there. And Team Medvedev's got to be good fun. I think that'll be. Yeah. I think Team maybe doesn't have quite enough firepower to really win it, but I think it'll still be good fun. Definitely.
Well, I think I've got Medvedev an upset alert for that. I think I think it's possible. It depends on how he plays, but I know what you mean because it's not going to be super. It's going to be if Tien's playing his best, it's going to be a hours-long grind probably between those two, which Medvedev will outlast him physically. That's probably how it's going to go. But I could see if Medvedev is grumpy and makes a bunch of unforced errors, Tien's going to be right there to capitalize.
Yeah, I mean, Tien's not really a big enough server to fly through service games, bit of a counter puncher. Medvedev's not really going to give him anything to work with. It's tough for me to really say upset's going to happen. I think Medvedev does get through it, even if he's playing a little off.
On the screen right now, we have Ons Jabeur against Osorio. I know that you're sort of quietly confident, Nick, about Jabeur at this tournament, right?
I have her in my quarterfinal.
Right.
It's always a big call. For Jabeur on hard court, it's definitely tough.
It is, I think, maybe a little bit draw dependent there, Nick, no? Or?
It is very draw dependent. I looked at her draw and I went, I don't see anyone who I think would definitely beat her. I think that I see winnable matches up until the quarterfinal, which then would be Iga, which that wouldn't happen. But like her biggest threat now, especially with the draw falling apart as it is probably Daria Kasatkina.
Yeah. Well, that tells you that the draw's not that bad when your biggest threat to the quarterfinal is, and Daria Kasatkina is a threat for sure.
Maybe Emma Navarro. I suppose Emma Navarro's in it because I thought Peyton Stearns would knock Navarro out.
We all know it's no disrespect to Kasatkina to say she obviously has her preferred surfaces, and hard court is an area she can get pretty bullied. So yeah, it is what it is. Jabeur does have a pretty keen draw.
Someone in action today is Ben Shelton. Okay,
here we go.
I think he's the. I don't get it, but I don't agree with the fact that there's a debate. For me, there's 4, 5, 6 American players, if you like, from Taylor Fritz, who's currently ranked number 4, but I suspect that he will never go beyond number 4 in the rankings. Tommy Paul, of course, who's probably going to break the top 10. Francis Tiafoe is definitely in the conversation. Sebi Korda's in that conversation, and Ben Shelton. For me, it's Shelton. It's Shelton that's the one that I'm not saying that Shelton's here going to go and grab, 3, 4 Grand Slams, but he's the one who could be, and most likely to be from that bunch of players, I think, to win a Grand Slam. Jack.
Yeah, but to be honest, I'm just not that impressed with the American field at the moment. I still think Shelton's got loads of flaws in his game. If he does patch them up, great, but again, go back to the forehand, big loopy forehand. It is a problem. He's tried changing it, and he's getting. He will maybe make more progress. He's making progress. So I'm not saying that that's a dead end, but at the moment, it's not slam worthy. And I mean, the serve is obviously great, but at the same time, you're looking at a serve that's just like absolutely smacked. There's a very high chance he's literally like that with the wrist. Like I think he actually could sustain some injuries that will sideline him for quite a while. Obviously, that's a completely different curveball, but why not? I mean, you actually need to watch it. It's crazy. Like, it's pretty much all wrist.
So. All right, Nick, I think we're going to finish on Raducanu Anisimova. Is that
because I want to go watch that.
Yeah, right. Oh, and I have got 2 questions. So give me a quick thought on Anisimova Raducanu, and then I've got one more question, and hopefully you can turn it on the TV in the meantime. But yeah, just give me a quick thought on that match.
So I would say that it's going to be interesting. Raducanu, I think it's going to really depend on how much Anisimova is on fire. If Anisimova is not near her best, Raducanu is going to make that really hard for her. If Anisimova is at her best, then Raducanu is going to be better than she was against Alexandrova to have a chance of winning that match. So I'd say this match is kind of on Anisimova's racket to a certain extent. But I think it's going to depend on like how much Raducanu can make her move, can keep the ball in play, and use her counter-punching ability. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be it could be a really fun match. It could also be a really, really messy match. I'm not sure who's going to win that one. To be honest, I think I might be leaning towards. I think it depends. Who do I trust more if it gets into a fight? Raducanu. Who do I trust more if it gets into? Who do I trust more to have a straightforward win? Probably Anisimova.
Jack, what do you think? Jack is a bit more down on Emma than
I am.
Just slightly. Listen, I think a lot of people are down or up, or I mean, within the rational speaking tennis community, people are sort of somewhere between neutral and down, and somewhere between neutral and up. But you're a bit more neutral. You're neutral down, is what I'm saying.
I'm pretty sure I've been down since like US Open 2021's like press conference. Like I literally. I was literally like, well, that won't happen again. Like, just insane. So no, I'm probably leaning Anisimova. Obviously, there's a bit of rust maybe for Anisimova, but it seems to be coming off slightly. And if I was going to trust them both on ball striking ability, I'd probably trust Anisimova a little more.
Just before the tennis brain in a jar, as in Damien Kust takes over in terms of his stream for that Anisimova Rybakina match, I want to get both of you on how are you doing and how have you always done during this Australian swing in terms of trying to watch matches? What are your, because Nick basically said to me just before we went live, was like, you know, tonight my regime is this, or my thing is I'm going to stay up late and I'm going to watch Rybakina and Anisimova. And I have changed from year to year and even day to day during this particular tournament. I've actually lived on the Australian time zone this year. I've actually gone to sleep at like the end of the matches at like 2-3 p.m. European time, if you like, and then woken up like in the morning to have breakfast. But my breakfast has been dinner, if that makes sense. So I'm waking up and I'm having tacos and chicken for breakfast, and for dinner I'm having omelette or whatever, and then yeah, it's been a weird few days, but it'll yeah. I mean, Nick, what's your regime? You still sort of keep as much as you can, but even then, you still probably flip a little bit, right, Nick?
Yeah. So essentially, I was thinking about this earlier. It was like, so tonight's the first night I've actually stayed up past midnight to watch a match,
right?
And that's because there are a couple of matches on first that I really wanted to see. I wanted to see how Rybakina and Anisimova get started, then I want to see how the Iga Swiatek match kind of goes. I think it's affected by the fact I have a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday job, so I can't really afford to have less than 5 or 6 hours sleep, because otherwise my employer is going to wonder what the hell I'm doing. But yeah, so generally speaking, what I will probably do is I'll pick a match. Like there's one match that I really want to see that I know is going to start in the middle of the night, and then I'll watch it back when I wake up in the morning after checking the live scores and make sure we're not in the middle of an epic. And that's what I've mostly done with the Australian Open since I've been a tennis fan, really. I mean, I used to love watching Australia when I was in doing my exams as a teenager. Because it was always falling during like mock exams or like the odd January exam I might have. And so it was like Australian Open would be on during revision. And so I have a little bit of nostalgia for that. But yeah, I'd say for me, yeah, the Australian Open is like, unless there's a match that's really, really worth watching at the start of the day, I'm probably going to sleep, wake up, watch a match back, and then see what's happening with the live tennis at night. Because Australian Open at night is where things really come alive.
I before this YouTube channel, I used to do it wasn't so bad. If there was like, I remember Rafa playing at 4 or 5 a.m. against Fabio Fognini, actually, before that Tsitsipas loss, I think it was the same year, 2021. And it was like a 4 a.m. start, which is obviously a bit insane, but it was a sort of a one-off. And that was kind of how I always viewed it. It was like, go to bed early, get up early, if you like. That was sort of the strategy. Now, I'm not quite Damien Kust levels of catnapping at various points. But yeah, Jack, what about you?
Jack looks deeply uncomfortable with all of this.
Say that again, Nick.
Jack, you seem deeply uncomfortable with all of this.
Oh no, yeah. To be fair, I'm very normal. I have in previous years that I've woken up at like 3 o'clock and kind of gone from there every single day. I think I did that 2021 and 2022. But this year, no, just too much work on. Very boring answer. Just normal schedule. I'll catch up with.
Jack, I'm surprised. And I mean this in the best possible way. Given the nature of your job and your coaching and stuff, I'm semi impressed that you get a chance to see stuff.
Well, to be fair, in the morning sometimes there's something on at like 8 a.m. The night match is pretty good to tune into in the morning, and I'm not always coaching first thing, so I get to watch a wee bit of it. But most of the time, it's just catching up with stuff in post, in between gigs, basically. So,
all right. Well, on that bombshell, we'll bring this to a close. Nick, I love that little signal that Nick is approving of this stream coming to an end because he wants to get away and watch Anisimova against some British nobody, which will just like somebody it will remind me of this a million times that I just called Emma Raducanu. It was meant as a joke. It was like a
it's on camera there, John.
Yeah.
We're going to leave you in the capable hands of Mr. Koost because, yeah, a safer pair of hands than pretty much all three of us combined.
He has capable hands, I will agree. But you wait until you get him in the backhand corner, all right? And that one-handed backhand, those capable hands become a little bit more incapable. That's all I'll say.
How's that 2-0 head-to-head against you going?
Yeah, Nick, we don't... Nick, things are going so well. And by the way, there's a lot to be said about both of those matches, but we'll do that off air. There was a I don't know what the second match was a bit of an ugly affair, and I don't mean this in terms of the fact that Damien and I were shouting at each other. It was fine. It was actually the opposite. We just weren't talking for the second set at all.
It's cool. I like it.
Yeah. Anyway, on that bombshell, remember to like and subscribe, and you're going to get reminded of that. And Nick and Jack, hope to see you both again soon. And I like the Oscar behind you, Jack. The new Novak fandom, though, I'm a little bit less keen on.
It's not quite as potent as the Andy fandom, don't worry. But
all right. Nick, you look like you got one more thing to say. Nick, go on.
I have nothing more to say to you.
Okay. Nothing more to say to you. Just get out of my sight. Reminds me of school days. All right. Well, on that bombshell, we'll bring this to a close and see you all soon. Cheers.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.